Welcome back to the Brick Clubhouse. This is episode 16. My name is Evan. I am one of your hosts, and I'm joined here with my other host, as always, Mr. Chris Davis. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Evan. Thank you for that lovely welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to welcome you to your own house. So we have a fun show tonight. We have a topic that we have talking about.
We've teased this quite a bit.
For a little while now, so we're excited. Before we jump into that, though, we want to make sure that we take a moment to thank our sponsor, which is Bricks and Minifigs San Diego North. This store allows us to do what we do here in the Brick Clubhouse. They have generously provided the ability and the means for us to be able to do these things. So make sure you, if you're in the San Diego area, make sure you stop on by, see what we got in the store. We'll, of course, have our main segment at the end where we talk about what's new in the store, just to kind of give you an idea. But we want to make sure we thank them for all that they do to allow for this to happen. So thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. It's a team. It takes a village. Isn't that what they say?
An Ewatch.
We would
hint.
No, we can't tease too much. But the store's a great place. We love having people stop in. Lots of people come in when they come to visit Legoland. And we love that. So if you're in the area, swing on by. We're on Carmel Mountain Road. We'd love to see you and talk Lego. But before we get into our main topic, I have a little follow-up from last week's show.
Oh, do you know?
Where we talked about the Bricklink designer sets. If you weren't lucky enough to order from the last wave, Lego has released all the instructions for those sets now.
For Series 1?
For Series 1.
Oh.
We'll put the link in the show notes. But you can jump over. I was looking at the build for
the Mountain
Fortress.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember the exact name. Yeah, the Mountain Fortress. The build looks pretty fun.
Yeah, and so
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, something about these sets is that a couple of them have some stickers, but most of them, and they didn't design any new pieces for any of these, so they're all made with pieces that you can get through Bricklink, other than a couple stickered pieces. So
yeah, that part of the program is that they just use kind of generic available pieces. So if you missed out and you want to go find those piece lists, they're all online and available for you now.
And those sets should be shipping pretty soon.
Which, if they put out the instructions, I thought I saw some reports online about people in Europe getting their shipping notifications. So we hopefully will be getting them here soon as well.
Yeah, and once again, we will have all 5 sets available in the store.
In limited quantities.
In very limited quantities.
So once you hear they're available, you'll want to rush on down.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you're in the area and you're interested in a set, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram at Bricks and Minifigs San Diego. That will be the most immediate way to find out when we get them in. I'm sure that we'll post them on our stories. Might even have a full post for these sets.
Yeah. I did hear from one listener after the last episode who was asking if we would be shipping them places, and the online store's not ready yet.
Not quite open.
I wouldn't count on us being able to ship them to you.
Yeah, so like I said, if you're wanting to know when we get those in the store, you might not want to just wait for the episode, because we record these on Tuesday nights. Let's say we get the sets in on a Wednesday. We won't talk about it on the podcast for another week. And then, like I said, Instagram. If you're in the area and you are interested in one of these sets from our store, give us a follow on Instagram. Once again, it's Bricks and Minifigs San Diego. That'll be your best way to know right when those sets go on.
We'll make sure we let everyone know. But just thought that was going to be some good follow-up for everyone that's interested in finding those instructions or learning more about those sets.
That was a fun episode last week, doing the Bricklink. I think the Bricklink Designer Program sets, they excite me in a different way than regular Lego sets, just because they're essentially they're mocks. They're essentially mocks that people have made that have, because when you do a Lego idea set, those are mocks too, but then they go through a whole Lego quality testing, and they hire a Lego designer that kind of changes the original.
Yeah, they redo it quite a bit.
So by the time you get the final product, it really is a Lego product, and these are very much fan products, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm so glad they're doing multiple waves of them this year, as opposed to the past where it was
Yeah.
very limited.
Yeah, and I understand how like the whole process of getting a Lego Idea set approved is a lot. And so like when they do the review periods, there's like tens and tens of sets, like dozens and dozens of sets
Oh
that
yeah,
get 10,000 votes, and they cannot make all of them. So I like how there's another way for us to get sets that people want.
yeah, and there's some great ones.
Yeah.
So
Anyways, if you missed that episode last time, go ahead and check it out. Episode 15, we did a little bit of a deep dive into the Bricklink Designer Program, the sets that have released in the past, the sets that are currently still available for crowdfunding, and then the sets that are yet to be crowdfunded
yeah,
in the coming months. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check that one out.
this episode may come out before the final buy period closes.
Potentially for series
Maybe.
2.
Yeah, because it
Potentially.
closes right at the end of the month.
Yeah, because we did release the last episode well within the limit, but maybe who knows
Yeah.
about this one.
We'll see.
Anyways, that is not the topic of this video
No.
episode.
Yes. Someday video.
Someday we'll film. That's our hope. We're working on it.
No.
Today is the day that we talk about
Maybe.
maybe the best year in Lego. Now, I have to admit some bias here. Chris and I are both Star Wars fans.
Correct.
We are both Lego Star Wars fans.
Extra correct.
We're also Lord of the Rings fans, other types of fans. But there are probably other years where your favorite themes had their best year. And maybe it wasn't this year. But as we were looking at it over time, working at the store, doing trades, talking about different things here on the podcast, there's been this theme of, wow, 2013 was a great year for Lego. So we're going to talk about it.
And I wasn't sure. Like, you had said that on one of the podcasts or around the store or something. And it's like, really? What is it about 2013? But then you go and actually look at all the sets that came out in 2013
Mm-hmm.
and some of the themes that were covered in 2013.
I think that's what's so fun about it, too, is like, yes, Star Wars went crazy that year. And they had the Lord of the Rings theme. They had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme. There was still a small line of castle sets. Like, yeah.
Even the creator expert sets that came out that year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the minifig series that came out that year
3 of them
were pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, we could argue whether those are the best series, but overall,
Series 9 has one of my favorite figures.
yeah,
Anyways, we'll jump
get
into
there.
it.
So, how do we want to do this? Do we want to go theme by theme and talk about some of the highlights?
Yeah, I think theme by theme would be a good way to do it. Do you want to do theme by theme, go through in alphabetical order and just highlight the ones that we like the best, or do we want to skip to our favorites first?
I say let's skip to our favorites first.
Do we want to
Because
start?
we're definitely, there are way too many themes to cover all of them.
No, we weren't going to do all of them.
So-
But do we want to go ahead and just start with Star Wars?
Yeah, let's
Cool.
do it. Because, let's face it, everyone loves Star Wars.
Yeah. So this year, the two main like flagship sets. So currently we get a UCS set on May the 4th, and we usually get a larger UCS set in the late fall, whether that's like September or October. Or something
October,
like that.
yeah, oftentimes near Black
Sometimes
Friday.
Friday,
Yeah.
sure. So there were also two kind of flagship sets this year. So the first one was set 10240. This is the second version of the UCS X-Wing Starfighter. Now, this is a set that I really, really wanted until the newer one came out, because it retired before I started collecting Lego, and the X-Wing is one of my favorite ships. It's iconic. It's an X-Wing. This set, when it came out, was a large improvement on the original 2001 UCS X-Wing. Large improvement.
I don't have the new one.
You have this one.
I have this one.
Yeah.
And it's pretty great.
It's great, and there's also a lot of people that still prefer this one over the new one.
It did have a figure, which they had just recently started doing. The early UCS sets didn't, but
Yeah.
we get a little R2. There are some things about it I don't love. The sticker on the
Oh, the
windshield.
cockpit sticker. Nightmare.
I hate stickers.
Yeah,
But it looks great once it's built
it does.
and together.
You know what's funny? So the newest one is the most accurate proportionally out of any of the three of them. But it's funny because the dimensions of Lego X-Wings have just been slightly off forever.
yeah.
like we're used to these dimensions that are actually not technically correct. And so the new one came out, people were like, "Oh, it's off. The dimensions are weird." And then there was like these comparisons to the in-universe models, and it's like, no, it's actually spot on. The other ones were wrong.
I know, but we're so used to that narrow nose,
Yeah. Yeah.
which this one is much more narrow than the new one.
Yeah.
But for 2013,
Oh, it's still a great
this
set.
was an amazing set, an
And-
amazing upgrade.
And like I said, there's still many people that prefer this one over the new one. And that says something because there were 10 years of Lego building techniques and upgrades between these two sets, and some people still prefer this one. So, good set.
It is a good set. Now, the second flagship
Yeah.
set of this year, I wouldn't call it a UCS set per se.
I think they technically did.
It's definitely one of the larger play sets.
I think if it would have released a few years later, it would have been considered Master Builder Series, but I think
Probably.
it might have been labeled UCS when it came out.
And this is set 10236, the Ewok Village,
The Ewok Village.
which I love this set.
It's a good,
For
it's a good set.
for somebody that grew up when these movies were coming out, like this was one of the dreams to have the Ewok Village on indoor to play in and
Yeah.
to have your figures and
Yeah.
explore. It's got all the scenes you would want. It's got C3PO in the throne
Uh-huh.
floating around. It's got the net capturing people. It's got these great bridges that connect all the different trees. And yeah, it is just kind of a series of trees, but
Yeah.
you're talking to someone whose favorite set maybe of all time is the treehouse. So the fact that it's just a bunch of trees is kind of cool.
That's a good. The Treehouse is such a good set. I did a phone session today with one of my clients, and I was just looking at that Treehouse for a while, and I'm like, man, I take that thing for granted because
It's a great set.
But when I talk about that today,
No,
this
you
Ewok
got
Village set,
you also have
there's 17 minifigures in it.
17 minifigures. You got some of the scout troopers. You got the
When multiple of the Ewoks are exclusive to this set, and so is the version of Leia that is exclusive to this set. So you got the high minifigure count. You have the exclusivity of some of the figures. Now, this doesn't happen super often, but this is a time when you and I don't say we disagree. I don't want to say we disagree. I personally think this set is very overrated. Now, what I mean by that is the set itself is a fantastic set. The fact that it goes for about $1,000 now is just kind of wild to me.
It is crazy
What
what
it
it's done on the
Yeah.
secondary market.
Now I understand that a good chunk of that is the figures, which again, like, okay, but like it's three trees connected by a platform, and then one other tree connected by a bridge.
Yeah.
Like it, I don't know. Like looking at the pictures of it, even looking at it on your shelf over there, like, I don't know. It's a cool set. I just like there's some people that would walk into the store when we have this and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Ewok Village," and I'm like, "Oh, cool, Ewok Village." Like, for what it is, it's fine. But for what it's become, I'm just like, it's just a little overrated to me.
Yeah, I understand, but I love it.
Yeah,
It's one of my favorite parts of the original trilogy, and
I do like the Endor
think-
sequence. The
I
Endor
think-
sequence is great.
I think they did such a good job with this playset, and I love that it is a playset. Like it's really meant to reenact those scenes from the movie.
Oh, and you know what? My numbers were very off. That it feels like it looks like the set's maybe gone down in value, or maybe I just misremembered how much it's actually going for. Because sealed in box, you can still get it for around $500. So that's not as outrageous as I thought it was.
That's yeah. I honestly didn't remember.
I mean, the average is closer to 720, but the lowest one is 473. So, anyways, it's not as expensive as I thought. So that changes it for me a little bit. Like I said, the set itself is a great set, and I completely recognize that I am in the vast minority when I say that because this is just a generally beloved set. So,
And I've got to say, it was one of my white whales for a long time. I think because when it did come out, it was at a time where we didn't have a lot of
big sets.
we didn't have a lot of big sets,
That's
and
a
I
good
wasn't in
point.
a position to buy big sets.
And that's a really good point. I think that being the Lego collector that I am now, we get like at least 10 sets worth at least $300 from Lego every year now. And so, like, yeah, I think a 2,000 piece set isn't as much of a deal to me now as it was when it came out, 11 years ago. So
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't in a position to buy these giant sets, and so that I've acquired some over the last
yeah,
bit of
yeah,
time. I just really like them.
sure.
So
So those are the big sets.
yeah.
Now we'll go through the next ones a lot faster than that one, obviously. I think first of all, something to note: this was during a time in which the Clone Wars television show was still running. A lot of the sets that they released were based off of the Clone Wars. There are a lot of sets in here that we get into the store and we all get excited.
Oh yeah.
Like still. So there's a couple little battle packs. So there's the Clone Troopers and Droideka battle pack, and there's a Republic Trooper versus Sith Trooper battle pack. This was also the year where they're releasing some of the Freemaker series sets,
hmm
which is cool. There was also
it's a really broad
wait,
collection
yeah,
that they released this year from, like you said, the Clone Wars, the Freemaker, the
the
original trilogy.
yeah, and then there's the planet sets. So these planet sets are really fun. We just got a bunch of them into the store recently. They're plastic, big old plastic balls that look like different planets from Star Wars, and then inside of it you get a little micro build of a ship, almost like a polybag size build.
Yeah.
And then one minifigure, and it goes on a stand with a printed little plaque saying the name of the character and the type of ship. And you can put them in front of the planet. It's a really cool idea. They made a bunch of them.
I think there were two or three waves.
Three series. And this year, I'm just gonna go through them quick. There was the Jedi Starfighter and Camino with R4. There was the Republic assault ship and Coruscant with a Phase 1 clone trooper. There's a TIE bomber and the asteroid field. There is the Snowspeeder and Hoth. There's Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter with Camino. I already said that one. That one's listed here twice. That's funny. There's the Tantive 4 with Alderaan and a Rebel Fleet Trooper. And looks like there's also a B-Wing Starfighter and Endor with a Rebel pilot. So those are the ones that came out that year. And they're just fun little builds. They don't go for that much now either. And so we do have a handful of them in the store. Those are fun ones.
Yeah.
Those are set number 75006 and up from there.
Yeah, it's
for a little
it's
bit.
a whole range.
So those are fun ones. Which ones do you want to kind of grab
Well,
next?
I want to point out this was also the year that we got the Rancor pit.
Yes.
That was the lower level for Jabba's palace that had come out the year before.
Yes. With the one and only molded Rancor.
Yeah, that Rancor is still highly sought after, and they haven't done another one.
We have one sealed in the store, in the case, unless it's sold.
No, we still have it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great set. We got some of these Clone Wars sets are just iconic, even now.
You know, I think that there's some that haven't shown up here because I'm pretty sure Jabba's Sail Barge came out in 2013 as well.
I believe it's here on the list.
Oh, there it is. If I sort by relevance, now it pops up, and there's other ones that weren't there before.
Weird.
Interesting.
Thank you, Lego.
So let's sort by relevance.
Okay.
So yes, Jabba's Sail Barge also came out with the Hutt Slayer Leia figure and the legendary Max Rebo figure.
Yep, still the only one we've gotten to this point.
Yep.
The 2013 version of the ATTE.
Yep.
Which a lot of people
with Coleman
would still say is the best version.
Yeah, with the Jedi that looks like a dinosaur kind of.
Yep.
He's in there. We got the couple Clone Wars sets. So we got the Mandalorian speeder with Robot Maul and some of the Death Watch troopers. We got the Umbaran MCH with Ahsoka and some clone troopers, including the Umbara troopers with those purple visors. Those are cool. And then another big one that is always very popular in the store is the Z95 Headhunter with the one and only Pong Krell minifigure.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing about this wave for Star Wars this year is so many of those figures. This is the only version we have.
The only one.
And I mean, we really would be amiss if we didn't mention the original Bark Speeder.
Well, that was next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if there's any set that is sought after, it's just one figure.
It has arguably the most sought after Lego minifigure, and that is the original Phase 2 Captain Rex.
Yeah.
I have this figure.
You do?
It came to me.
It's in rough shape, but
yeah, it's in rough shape, so I got a good deal on it. But yeah, it's one of those things where before I started working at the store, I used to think that a lot of YouTubers and people that I would follow would over complain and over criticize minifigures. And then I started working at the store and I saw some of the figures that they came out with, 11 years ago, and I was like, oh, these are way better than the ones now. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that? And this is one of those examples. So recently the Captain Rex Y-Wing fighter came out with the same Captain Rex figure that was in the UCS Venator, and yeah, it really is much worse than the one that came out 11 years ago.
Yeah,
It
they
really
cut some
is.
corners. It's sad. But this 2013 version
It's fantastic.
is so good.
It's so good.
We had this set new in box in the store for a while,
We did.
and it was crazy.
People loved seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one has the waist cape and the pauldron, no helmet holes. It just looks great. My favorite little detail that I didn't know until I got it in my hands is that underneath the waist cape on the legs, there are more printed tally marks,
Yeah.
like the ones all over his
Which
helmet.
we won't get. I hate the printed waist capes.
Oh, it doesn't look
It's
like anything.
so
It's just a
no.
black line.
It's such a cop out.
It's so funny too because the reason for so long is that you can't sit the minifigure down when they're wearing the cape, and then like there's literal videos of people just sitting them down. Like
Yeah.
if you move the legs, it opens up the holes that you can use to sit them down. Like it doesn't even
No.
make sense.
It's that's not a real reason.
No, I think.
But it's an amazing set from that year.
I think just to highlight a couple more really quick, so before we move on to the next theme, we don't want to linger here too long. I think another one that is worth mentioning, we got the Jek 14's Stealth Starfighter. That's a sought after set. Always turns some heads in the store.
People love those figures.
Mm-hmm. And then there's another one of the kind of free makers, the Jedi Defender class cruiser. That's a really popular one as well. But the one I really want to focus on is the 2013 Republic gunship. I literally have habituated saying the year before this one because there's multiple gunships, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a part of the Lego Star Wars community, you know the 2013 Republic gunship is the gunship.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the UCS one, right? This one is widely considered to be the best play scale gunship model that they've made. This is another set that I actually have. I know Carter has it too.
Mm-hmm.
This is based off of episode 2, so it has Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan. It has 2 super battle droids, and it has a clone pilot and a clone gunner. This is a great set. What is there to say?
I mean,
it's just fantastic.
I mean, until the UCS gunship, like none could touch this from a gunship standpoint.
And again, there are still a lot of people that would rather have this than the UCS one. Part of that's the minifigure selection, but yeah, it's just like this size, like this build is just so perfect.
It is. It's so. I mean, yeah, it's so good. It's funny how they keep like making the ships just a little bit smaller and a little bit worse.
Like that Coruscant Guard gunship that came out last year, like it just looks tiny compared to this one.
Oh yeah.
It's just like okay.
No, and like I mean all of them, like we're getting downsized TIE fighters and X-Wings and Slave Ones and like it just is the trend. And I get they're trying to make them cheaper, they're trying to make it better for kids. But
sure. But it also is funny because they use more small pieces, so it's an increased piece count, but for a smaller set sometimes.
But I can tell you, having a kid that had this set, he played with it. He didn't care. Like, there was no stopping kids from playing with it. It's just so good.
Yeah. So I think, another little one is the Corporate Alliance tank droid with Jango Fett. That's one that's very popular. But I think the main highlights of this year was, Jabba's sail barge in the Rancor pit, UCS X-Wing, the Republic gunship.
I mean, there were a lot of episode 2 sets this year that were great. The Duel on Geonosis is a great set.
And a bunch of those battle packs that I mentioned earlier briefly, like those are all worth quite a bit now. Like when we get those in the store, they're worth a good amount. There's an exclusive clone in almost all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the clone troopers are like the most sought after Lego Star Wars.
This was also the year we got the Maul with the robot legs.
I did mention that.
Yeah. So many great sets for Star Wars. And if it was only Star Wars,
right?
Like that's still an amazing year,
right?
But Lego did a lot more than Star Wars in 2013.
Yeah, and I think a place to start, kind of transitioning, is a theme that doesn't even exist. Well, doesn't even exist fully anymore, and that's Lord of the Rings.
Because the Lord of the Rings sets this year. If you listen to our Lord of the Rings episode a few back, we talked about a lot of these sets, and it's amazing that they all came out in one year. And we just aren't getting these smaller scale play sets for Lord of the Rings anymore. And it's a shame because this year, 2013, we did get the Tower of Orthanc, which, up until Rivendell was the biggest
Yeah,
Lord of the
that's
Rings
true.
that there had ever been. If you compare the Tower of Orthanc to some of the recent sets, it's still an amazing set.
Oh, it still totally holds up. Now, this one is one that does go for about $1,000 sealed now. We have checked
It
this one
is.
recently.
We have.
This one I know my numbers are correct.
Because, well, and a lot of that is, some of the figures
Yeah.
are unique, which a lot of these sets have unique figures,
Dude,
which has made
this
them
is
crazy on the.
yeah. And now this point won't be highlighted as well for this topic because we just talked about how many exclusive great Star Wars minifigures they made this year. But like looking at this wave of Lord of the Rings sets and that year's wave of Lego Star Wars sets, like it feels like they put more time and energy into figures a lot of the time. Like let's give an exclusive figure in these battle packs. Let's give an exclusive Rex in this Bark Speeder. Let's give an exclusive Elf in this Mirkwood set. You know what I mean? Like it just like the level of the overall level of quality of figures in these Lord of the Rings sets versus other themes is just really like cool to me. Like
Which
this,
is
yeah,
which is funny because, I mean, all throughout Lego's history with Lord of the Rings, like the figures that they've created. Like we complain about the new Star Wars figures not being as good as the old ones.
yeah.
That's not the case with Lord of the Rings.
No, the new ones are
But
still great.
but these figures, like, this was the first time we were getting so many of these figures.
Yeah,
And you could get some of these great figures in like $10 sets.
yeah.
Like you could get Gandalf and Sauron together in a little wizard battle set.
Yeah. Well, and then there was the Council of Elrond that retailed for like $20 or $30, and there's an exclusive Arwen and an exclusive Elrond in it. Like they're
Yeah.
great figures, and so like we talked about in our Lord of the Rings episode, they didn't make Lego Lord of the Rings sets actually until the Hobbit movies were coming out, which means that these waves were a mix between Hobbit sets and Lord of the Rings sets. So they were releasing both at the same time. It's kind of really cool to me. Like
Yeah.
obviously, the Hobbit movies were not received as well as the Lord of the Rings movies, but these sets and the figures are still great, and the locations are still locations in Middle Earth that people have connections to and enjoy. And so, I think, like Chris said, the biggest highlight was the Tower of Orthanc. After that, I think the pirate ship ambush set from Return of the King.
Such a great set.
We've gotten that one in a handful of times in the store, and every time, not only us, but the customers are so excited to see it.
Yeah.
It's just a great set.
And it sells like within a few days.
Pretty
Like
quickly.
very rarely does it stay around long.
I think all of those boat sets with the big old hull pieces, like the
Mhm.
Pirates of the Caribbean ones too, like those ones are just like they don't make those pieces for ships anymore, really.
No.
And so those ones are really popular.
We also had the Battle of the Black Gate,
Yeah,
which
with the first
is
Mouth
kind of
Sauron
a
figure.
weak Black Gate,
It is,
but
and
the
we talked about
figure
this. Yeah,
selection is so good. Yeah, we got the Mouth of Sauron. We have
my favorite is King Aragorn.
yeah with
With
the
the white tree of Gondor printed on his chest.
so great, and we get the
The
eagle
eagle.
and Gandalf the White. It's just a really great
Figure selection.
yeah
Yeah.
in this little set. And that's the other thing. It's like these little sets had so many figures
Yeah. And that's something else you still see today with Star Wars, where like you get
with Lord of the Rings.
well, what I was gonna say is like you get like $170 Star Wars set, and there's gonna be way less figures in it than if it was a $170 Harry Potter set.
Mhm.
And this kind of going back, like Lord of the Rings seemed to be more in line with Harry Potter, where like they would give you more minifigures for the size of the set than they do for some other themes. And so, yeah, like a very inexpensive set would have like a handful of minifigures, and they were good. Like across the board, they were good quality figures.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any other specific ones we want to touch on.
Yeah, I think the Mirkwood Elf Army is a popular one. There's some exclusive figures in there.
And it's one of the few that if you really wanted to do army building
Yep.
in Lord of the Rings, like this is one of those sets you could do that with.
Yeah, there are two named characters in it, which would be a little bit tough, but it also has like the wolf in it. Yeah, I think the Council of Elrond set is a good one. Like we mentioned, it has an exclusive Elrond and Arwen figure, as well as Frodo and Gimli. As far as Hobbit sets, the Mirkwood one is one of them, and the Lake Town Chase, and the Dol Guldur battle, and the Dol Guldur ambush. So that's the wave of sets. There's only 9 sets, but they're good.
They are really good.
And I think Orthanc really carries that one.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, that was such an anchor piece that year. Like you couldn't miss it when you went to the Lego store.
Yeah. Which theme do you want to jump to next?
Let's we'll kind of hit some of the highlights here. I just want to mention the creator expert line because
for sure.
There are 2 of the sets that came out this year that I think are I mean, for their themes, they're 2 of my favorites, even to this day.
Yeah.
And that the modular that they released this year is the Palace Cinema.
Yep.
Which one of my favorites. I just
really
love the Palace Cinema. It was one that after I got into the modulars, not back into the modulars, but into the modulars for the first time during COVID.
That was the one.
Like that was one I had to go back and get.
Yeah.
And it's great. I'm so glad I was able to find it. And the other one, another one of my favorite themes is the Winter Village that they release a set for every year. Every Christmas we put out our big Winter Village. And this was the year that they did the carousel and the Winter Village market. So you got a few different stalls and you got this carousel and a whole bunch of minifigures.
A lot.
Yeah. And it's one of the anchors of our village, to this day when we set it up.
Yeah.
So the fact that both of those came out this year is just goes to show the power of 2013.
Yeah, and then along in the same theme, the Lego Creator Expert. This was also the year where the Sydney Opera House was released,
which is just an incredible build.
It is. It's huge and it's beautiful, and it's another set that like after I got into Lego, it took me a while to even know this set existed, and then I saw it. I was like, no, they did. Yeah, whoa, and like it doesn't even look like a Lego set from a distance.
No,
that's an awesome one. So yeah, Lego Creator Expert. Solid year for that one as well. I think we won't necessarily dive into the sets that came out in these themes super in depth, but this was a year where there were 6 Ninja Turtles sets that were based off of the animated Nickelodeon series, which are the version of the figures that everyone wants.
Right. Another theme that I think people forget was still around in 2013 is Castle.
Yeah, there were like 5 Castle sets.
We got and there's some really good ones.
Yeah,
the King's Castle that came out that year.
Is that a molded dragon?
Yeah, an amazing dragon.
Oh my
gosh. From this Dragon Mountain set. It just some really great castle sets.
Was this the Bull faction that was being featured here mostly? Oh, that's the set that we had sealed in box for forever, the Gatehouse Raid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, 2013 had some great castle sets. People would die to have 5 new castle sets now.
Chima was still around with 37 sets that year. You still had, Lego City pumping out 29 sets. Mindstorm still had a set. Lego Minecraft was a thing in 2013. I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah, been around.
There was only one Lego DC set, but it was awesome.
I mean, it's one that it's still, when it comes into the store, like, it doesn't stick around long.
This is the Batman Arkham Asylum Breakout. This one is based off of, like, Lego's versions of the Batman characters. It's not based on, like, a licensed version of the Batman characters. But it's a great one. You got Batman, Robin, Penguin, Joker, Poison Ivy, and Scarecrow, along with, like, a doctor and a cop. And the build looks really good. I mean, it's Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Another lesser known theme this year that had some sets is Galaxy Squad,
Oh, yeah.
which is a space alien theme that they did, and all the aliens were kind of insectoids. And I just remember my son Carter having a lot of these sets, and they were super fun to play with.
Yeah.
Like, it was the closest thing to classic space that we had gotten in a long time.
Yeah. They also, this was when they were still releasing the Lego games, you know, like those board games that you could build and then like build the dice for and
Yeah.
roll it. So there was a Batman and a Chima one this year, but there was also a Lord of the Rings one, and it was based off of the Battle of Helm's Deep. Like, that's cool. Like, I don't know how well those games did or how fun they were to play, but the fact that there is one for Helm's Deep is kind of makes me really happy.
Yeah, Lego was trying some weird stuff back in these days.
Well, they still are.
Yeah, I guess,
You seen the video line?
and that's what I guess makes Lego Lego. Now I have to say, as we're talking, the Marvel wave for 2013
Sad face.
was a little weak, mostly because I think
As they
the
still
movie
are
that we
today.
had to base stuff off of was Iron Man
Two?
2. Yeah, not the greatest.
No.
So
But it was also that final battle was pretty cool. They could have done something cooler with that.
yeah, but I just
Yeah.
showing that not everything. But one thing they did do really well this year was their minifig series.
I was just gonna say, let's talk about the minifig series.
Because this was the year there were 3 series released in 2013.
9, 10, and 11. And for those of you who know, you know that Series 10 is the series with Mr. Gold in it.
Yeah.
So that took the year by storm, obviously.
And I mean, and if we start with looking at Series 9, it has an amazing knight. It has the chicken suit guy
It has one of
that
my
people love.
Yeah, one of my favorite CMF figures is the Forest Maiden.
Oh,
She
yeah.
has the printed tree on her shield, which is freaking awesome. And she has the longbow piece. I also love the mermaid with the sea star. That
Mhm.
sea star is an exclusive mold for that, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Maybe I'm mistaken. It has the judge with like the gavel. That mold, I know that accessory is exclusive to that.
Yeah, it had a space guy that kind of went with the Galaxy Squad. It had the Cyclops figure that people still love.
Yep.
Yeah, Series 9.
It had the woman with the tarot cards, which those are cool prints.
Mm-hmm.
The gypsy, I guess that's the word you might use for
Yep.
it. Yeah, Series 9, overall pretty fun. Series 10 has another one of my favorite figures, which is the second baseball player they did with the glove hand.
This is my favorite of the baseball players.
Oh, it's so good.
Because one, it's, blue and gray. It's more Dodger-esque than the other one.
Yep.
But I love the mitt. The mitt mold.
I love that it's
so
part of the
fun.
arm. Yeah. And the Medusa figure is also great. You also got the Bumblebee.
The British soldier, like revolutionary soldier.
The Spartan is awesome.
We get the Spartan and kind of the female gladiator.
Yeah, we got both.
Yeah, in the same series, we get the Native American with the mohawk. I mean,
I love the sea, like the sea captain too, with the pelican. That's the seagull.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's
the dwarf with the mohawk.
It's such a good wave in Series 10.
I love how they use like the Ninjago snake body for Medusa. It's great. And then, but that wasn't it. They also did Series 11 that year.
Yeah, with this was always one of my favorite waves because it gave me a lot of characters for my Winter Village.
Winter Village with the gingerbread.
We got the gingerbread man, we got the elf, we got the abominable snowman.
Oh yeah.
We have
there's the constable,
like the Oktoberfest girl with the pretzel,
and then there's Scarecrow with the crow on its hat.
This is also just a really solid wave.
The barbarian, you got the Duke Silver looking guy with the saxophone. Yeah,
total Duke Silver.
May you rest
in Jeff.
For just kind of a wave of non-themed minifigures. The fact that there were 3 that year that were all
3
home runs.
Like that's before they did licensed CMFs, huh? So that's why they did 3 non-licensed ones that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But just solid choices all the way around with the minifigures.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting as well. There was one Lego idea set this year, which was the mini DeLorean. Before we got the big DeLorean that we have now, there was a mini DeLorean with Marty and Doc and the hoverboard. That was a fun one. We've had that in the store a couple times as
well. Yeah, I have that one here in my collection.
Mm-hmm. There was also 6. Oh, we talked about the Ninja Turtle sets. That's right, we already did that one.
But we also had the Lone Ranger set
that
year, which I think some of these Lone Ranger sets, we don't get Western themed sets that often.
Yeah.
And I love the Stagecoach.
The Stagecoach we have had that at the store. That's a great Stagecoach build.
It is really good. They've got a great train that you can motorize. The mine shootout's just a really cool. Kind of reminds me of like Big Thunder Mountain.
Oh, Big Thunder Mountain. Yeah.
You know, from Disneyland.
Yep.
The Comanche camp with the teepee.
Which Thunder Mountain, that should be a Lego set. That'd be sick.
Can you imagine?
Dude, this is what like the big Disney castles. If they did like Space Mountain and Thunder Mountain and Matterhorn.
Let's put a pin in it. One day we'll discuss.
We'll do Disney Dream sets.
Disney Dream sets just from Disneyland. We won't visit the other parks. Maybe. Anyhow, it's so cool to get these Western sets. And
it's fun.
Yeah.
We talked about it last week on the Bricklink Designer because we were talking about the Western General Store and the logging train and stuff like that. Or the Western train coming out in Series 3. That we don't get a ton of Western stuff for Lego.
No.
And that was a whole line of all Western sets pretty much.
I also remember this wave of Ninjago sets, my son having a number of them and loving them. They were doing, I'm not big in Ninjago, but they were doing a lot of like trucks with like treads and almost, kind of Mad Max kind of design.
So not just like a bunch of mechs.
No. They did have their mechs, don't get me wrong, but they also had, it seemed like every big truck or car they were doing also had tank treads on it and giant oversized wheels with spikes and
that Temple of Light set we've gotten in a couple times and people like that one for sure.
Yeah, and so I think like playability, there was just some really cool Ninjago sets. People love the giant mech dragon that came out that year in its vibrant purple color and its big wings. Another just great wave from 2013.
Yeah. Honestly, those are the highlights. I mean, yes, they had Lego Friends sets and Duplo sets, and there was still one more Mindstorm set, 8 Technic sets. Hero Factory was still a thing.
Yeah.
With 15 sets. I know some people like Hero Factory a lot. Yeah, I think that
Friends was just getting going. There was a lot happening in these other themes.
I think doing a deep dive into it, who knows if I would say it's the best year ever, but I think that what really turned me on to this year was mostly the Star Wars sets and the Lord of the Rings sets. But I also think that we were able to just bring up and talk about a lot of other really, really great ones.
Really iconic sets that came out that year. Yeah, was it the best year ever? I don't know, but
I think
if you take the whole collection of what was released, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a year that was as good all the way around as 2013.
Yeah, and that answering that question is always going to be subjective, right? Like what is great for somebody might not be as great for somebody else. For instance, like we talked about already, if you're not a huge Star Wars fan, maybe this year wasn't your favorite year. But I think it's pretty hard to argue the fact that it was a fantastic year with some really great iconic sets.
And I mean, there are a few other years that I think were in the running that we can talk about later. I think there's some really great stuff in 2015. I think there's some years we can visit in the future. But yeah, 2013 is pretty standalone.
I think that
with some great stuff.
I think the takeaway from all of this,
one thing,
release another wave of small play scale Lord of the Rings sets.
One thing I want to touch on quickly here before we leave 2013 is 2013 Comic-Con sets. Those figures continue to be some of the most expensive because they were released in such limited quantities. We have the Green Arrow in the store right now.
Oh yeah.
that was very limited, but not just the Green Arrow, because the Green Arrow, honestly, of all of them, is like the least desirable. Because we also had that year the Black Suit Superman,
Yes.
which is one of my, like, of all the Comic-Con figures that I don't have, like that's one that I really would love.
You went to Hall H instead, but
I did.
It was a good Hall H day.
We also got one of the first Spider Women
nice
minifigures that year.
Yeah.
The Green Arrow we mentioned, and then the Spider-Man that came out that year was,
What
you
version
know,
was it?
still one of the super expensive.
What version was it?
You know, I don't know. It's just listed as Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, it's just like it's the Amazing Spider-Man. It's Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
So we also had a Lord of the Rings Hobbit minifigure that year that was given out in very limited numbers. The Azog, which goes for a pretty penny still. And then that was the year we got the micro scale bag end Lord of the Rings set. Yeah, the little ring. And Jack 14, there was a mini Starfighter Comic-Con exclusive for that as well.
Dude, they did figures and sets at Comic-Con?
Yeah,
and now
they
do
used to.
neither?
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
I mean, if we look back at what was released in 2013 at Comic-Con, it's still probably one of the best Comic-Con years as well.
Yeah, with Black Suit Superman. And I feel like we glossed over this when I realized who it was. This is the Amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield. Now, I know that we have the Amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield in the newer No Way Home set, but it's a different version.
But yeah, and this was the first, and for a long
one.
time, the only way to get him.
And it's still exclusive. So, yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but Andrew Garfield might be my favorite Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland's the best one, but I love Andrew Garfield, so I'm gonna have a bias towards him no matter what.
That's a debate for another day.
But I know a lot of people also. There's a lot of people in the Spider-Man community that think that he had like the best Spider-Man live-action suit in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but this one looks like it's based off of the Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Yeah,
but still, great suit.
You know, and these figures just go for so much money because, for whatever reason, 2013 they did them in such limited quantities.
They knew that it was the year. They knew that it was the year of sought after Lego, so they had to capitalize.
Happening at Lego in it would have been in like 2011, 2012 that these plans were all made.
There's other there's some instances where you'll look at like a theme and you're like, wow, they really just decided to be great. Like, for instance, the Creator 3-in-1 sets from this year.
Oh.
It's just like, oh, I don't know what happened over at Lego Creator 3-in-1 headquarters, but they just decided to drop an all-time wave of sets. That's kind of just what 2013 was.
But across the board. Yeah, it's wild. I just, as we're going into Comic-Con season, I just had to mention that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did.
I think maybe in a future episode we will cover Comic-Con figures and sets more in general.
Like the Hobbit Scavenger Hunt and the Lego Batman.
Yeah, there's some fun ones.
Yeah.
But that's this for another day.
Well, that'd be the perfect podcast for this to be more of like a Q&A, because you are the Comic-Con expert and you've experienced all of these things. So you have stories that I don't know anything.
Yeah, and expert. I have my own stories.
Yeah.
Do I know everything? Absolutely not. But
no, but you know way more than me.
I can definitely tell my stories. I did.
They don't need to. You know who hasn't seen Star Wars? The actors. That's because they lived it. They lived the Star Wars.
Oh my. 2013. I think that closes the book on 2013 here.
Yeah.
We do have some stuff going on in the store that we would love for you to stop by and see. We continue to work on certifying a bunch of sets, as we discussed last week. We've been working on, there's just a bunch of Star Wars sets that have come in that we've been slowly getting out. Like some great ones that people really love.
But like in chunks and in pieces. So it's taken a little while.
It has. And they've needed extra cleaning. But they've all been complete with their figures. And so there's just a bunch of new stuff that's been popping up on our shelves that, you know, I think is pretty cool. And you won't want to miss.
Worth stopping by for sure. We get new stuff in every single day.
Yeah.
So.
We just put out a certified Ghost with all its figures.
Yep.
We have
The old
new
ghost, or
ghost.
the new ghost?
The old ghost is certified. The new ghost is just regular pre-owned set, but still with all its figures.
Yeah.
So working on a U-wing. By the time this comes out, who knows what will be on the shelves. So
who knows, indeed.
You won't want to miss it. I think that is going to bring us to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
You have anything else you want to get off your chest about 2013 or any other year?
I don't think so, man. I think that's it.
Well, thank you everyone out there for joining us. Like we said, if you want to find out all the details of what's happening specifically in the store and when some of those sets that we mentioned are going to be available, follow us on Instagram at Bricks and Minifigs San Diego. And that's the best way to catch up with us. You can also find us on Instagram at the Brick Clubhouse, where we post fun little things about the episodes. So follow us there as well. But I think that brings us to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Say goodbye, Evan.
Goodbye, Chris.